my camera is taking on a life of its own. It's like turning itself on. Now, I don't remember putting the settings to do that. Hey, I want to do a reading for Pisces and Cancer and maybe Virgo. Maybe Virgo, okay? Now, the reason why is because the last time when I did you guys' readings, Pisces and Cancer, for sure, what came up was that they were having heartache about their loves that either didn't work out in the past or currently were not working out. And now Virgo was a little bit different. Virgo was like trying to love somebody who just was not treating them the way they need to be treated. I mean, like, yeah, we'll just leave it at that. And Virgo was hanging out, you know, kind of waiting on that, on those people or that person or whatever that was. And then I heard that somebody cried after they got my reading. Maybe a couple people cried because they had heartache because they were thinking about those loves. Okay? That Three of Swords stuff. Well, the reason that stuff came up, though, is because you are thinking about it and you're still hanging on to it. Or you're either still hanging on to it from the past, or it's in the process of falling apart right now, and for some reason, you know, you're hanging on. You might not even want to hang on, but your claws are in, you know. Or you're waiting on a person who's not giving you the attention that you need. Instead of moving on, you're waiting on that person. Okay, so let's do a different reading for all three of you signs. Instead of doing readings that bring up those old hurt feelings that we're going to sit and cry about, how about we do a reading about letting go? I know it sounds like a cliche. It'd be like, everybody tells us to let go. Yeah, they do, and there's a reason for that, okay? I have here a spread that I got from, I think it was invented by Kate the Daily Tarot Girl. And it's, what did she call it? She said, how to move on or let go. I've done this spread on myself, and it really had some surprising results that I was happy with. Because, truth be known, I am still hanging on. I myself am still hanging on to something that wasn't worth the time of my day 3 years ago, and you would think, it sure as hell isn't worth the time of my day right now, but for some reason, I'm hanging on. Okay, anyway, I think there's some interesting questions in this spread. What area of your life is being affected by you hanging on and not letting go? And what is stopping you, or why are you having such a hard time letting go? Or what are your reasons for hanging on? I mean, however you want to see that. Number 3 is what will help you move forward, or how to let go, or what you need to do. And I think 4th is the really interesting question. What are the advantages of holding on? Not what are the advantages of letting go, but what are you actually getting from holding on? How are you gaining or benefiting? Okay? That's an interesting question. Might surprise you. And it kind of gets at what's in your subconscious. There's something in it. There's some reason why you're hanging on. So I'm going to turn the camera around so you can see the table when I do the cards. And then we're going to do the spread. And I'm going to use this the Mind's Eye Tarot by Olivia Rose. They're pretty. Some of you have seen me use this before. And then I'm going to get a deck too for clarifying. I'm thinking maybe Tarot of the Abyss. Okay. All right. Okay. So let's begin. I've got my notebook here. If you see me looking at that, it's just so I can do it right. So I'm going to shuffle the Mind's Eye Tarot, and we're asking now on behalf of Pisces, Cancer, Virgos who have been watching my tarot readings. And this is the spread about letting go and moving on. I'm asking on behalf of those signs, what area of their life is being affected by them not letting go and not moving on from their love heartaches, or from waiting on people who aren't giving them attention. Okay, Tarot, so it is, what area of their lives are being affected? Thank you. And we have now the Eight of Swords. Okay, now this is their mind. What's being affected? Their minds are being affected. This Eight of Swords is the card of being in a prison of our own making. It's a mental prison. Okay? And it's when we can't stop thinking about something, or it could be the way that we're thinking about something and we get trapped. Usually, in other decks, a lot of times when you see this, she's got a blindfold over her eyes. In this deck, it's like her body's wrapped up, and it's the area of her body where her heart is and where her stomach is. You know, we can have heartache, or we can have GERD, or we can have anxiety that we feel in our stomach area. So instead of having a blindfold around her face, she's got wrapped up around her torso area. Now the deal with this is that it's a prison of your own making. So the thing about the Eight of Swords is that this person is not being forced beyond their will to stay there. They can get up, they can unwrap themselves, they can take the blindfold off their eyes, and then they can see that all these swords are standing around them like a prison, that they're free to set themselves free from. They're free to liberate themselves. And then if they could liberate themselves, then they could get out and go somewhere else. A lot of times there's a mountain in the background of this card. And one of the things they could do if they could get free is climb up to the top of the mountain and have a whole different view. Okay? So what's being affected? What area of their life? They are in a self-made prison, and it is a prison of the mind. Okay? All right. So our next question is, what stops them? So card number 2. What stops them from moving on or letting go? Or what are their reasons for hanging on? A card jumped out at me. 2 cards jumped, 3. Okay, that's all right. These cards are fairly new and slippery yet. Okay, so what stops them from letting go? What stops them from moving on? For Pisces and Cancer and Virgo. Thank you. The Ace of Swords. So it's the ability to see clearly, or it's the ability, this would be being able to see things clearly, or it is having to do with the truth. Maybe they can't accept the truth. Maybe they're holding out. And this could be in your deepest of deeps, okay? Like you might tell yourself, oh no, I know that person's a jerk. Oh, I know that person's a manipulator. Or I know that person's a cheater. Or I know that person's too distracted to pay any attention to me. Or whatever it is. Like you know that. You know the truth. But you're not acting on it. You're not letting yourself see it. And that's on purpose. This is a person who can liberate themselves. The sword is also a tool, okay? You always hear me say that. So to see clearly, to accept the truth, to clearly see the truth and accept it and act on it, pick up the sword and cut things off. Cut it. Cut the tie. Okay. Card number 3. What will help them? What will help them move forward? I might draw a few cards here. What will help them move forward, Tarot? Please. Thank you. What will help them release and let go? The Hanged Man, getting a different perspective. So one thing the Hanged Man does is hang upside down, and then that's how they get a different perspective. They see the world from a whole different angle, and that's what that card is about, is getting perspective. But it's also about stopping all activity and making it a point to get a different perspective. So I want to say more about the Hanged Man card. If you're stopping all activity, it means you're not cross-watching their tarot readings. You are not texting or calling them. You are not, driving past their house or whatever you're doing. Whatever you're doing that keeps the cord between the two of you, you purposefully have to stop it. Cut it. Take out your sword, little mama, and cut it off, or little papa, whoever we're dealing with here. And that's work. That's not easy. That really is. And the other thing is in your thoughts, because we've got 2 cards of swords on the table. We know that swords are the realm of the mind, the realm of the thought. And that also would mean, like, the thought of them is going to come up in your head maybe 500 times a day, maybe 1,000 times a day. That means 1,000 times a day when you notice yourself going down the rabbit hole of that person, you're going to stop and you're going to try to redirect your thoughts somewhere else. It's like, yep, I know. I'm going to think about something else again. I'm going to think about what kind of flowers I'm going to plant. I'm going to think about, whatever I want to do, whatever I'm doing for my, good looks or my health or whatever. I'm going to think about my kids. I'm going to think about my job. I'm going to think about anything. What are you going to make for dinner? How are you going to budget your money? I mean, anything. And like I said, you might have to do that 500 times a day. And at first it will be really hard, but then the longer you do it, the easier it gets. Okay. Let me have another card on that, because I know I'm talking to more than one person. I ask you again, Tarot, what stops them from letting go? What stops them from letting go? Something's falling out for me here. The Two of Cups. Yeah, still hoping on a relationship. Or having a relationship, even if you're not like actively having a relationship with the person, you could still be having that relationship in your mind. Okay? It could be your relationship with yourself. And sometimes having a relationship with yourself can go a long ways to getting you away from a relationship with somebody who's either doing you dirty or just not giving you what you need. So also, I think this card, it's not the Devil card, but we can get addicted because it's about dopamine, right? It comes down to a chemical reaction in the body, in the brain. It's like a little rise or a little high that we get when we think of somebody, or when we, even the surge of pain that we feel when we think about something, the body can get addicted to that chemical release. That is very much a relationship. That's a relationship with yourself, by the way. So be conscious about that. Get a perspective on that. One more time. Why are they having such a hard time letting go, dear tarot deck? Thank you. Yeah, just hanging on, set in your ways, being stubborn, being stuck. Okay, this is very much about being stuck too. So we're getting some really good answers here. Okay, so that's card number 3. Now card number 4 is supposed to go on the top. What are the advantages of hanging on? What are the advantages of hanging on? For Cancer, for Pisces, for Virgo. What are the advantages of hanging on to these painful relationships? Thank you. Page of Swords. Page of Swords. The page might have a message. What is it? The Hierophant. Yeah, it's about making a commitment. You've made a commitment somehow. You've committed yourself. Okay, that much is obvious. Let's ask again. What are the advantages of hanging on? How are they benefiting from not letting go? Maybe they feel like they've got something to learn about commitment. I know a lot of people, well, I know a few people, and I think I've been in this situation myself, where we think that if we do not, like for better or for worse. We could be talking about people who are in marriages here too. I think so. You've got a commitment. If it's the Hierophant, yeah, you've got a commitment. You stood up. You made vows while people witnessed it. And you think that if you don't stay with a relationship, even if it's really hurting you, that you have somehow failed your commitment. All right. Now, because we are dealing with more than one person, what other advantages do these people think they're getting by not letting go? Thank you. Right. The Empress. Here's what the Empress card looks like. The first thing that came to my mind is, two things come to my mind. One is that somebody could be pregnant. Or even if they're not pregnant, they could be a mom, okay? They don't have to actively be in a pregnancy, but maybe they're the mom of a kid. Or kids. The other thing is abundance. It may be, like a money situation. They may be hanging on because of money. Okay, that's what I think when I see the Empress. Okay. Oop, here it is. Something jumped right. Oh, it's 3 cards, but one is the Ten of Pentacles, and that's like the family, the money, and again, I think it's about that. The Commitment card. Boy, things are just jumping right out at me. The Queen of Pentacles come out. Be very, because they're very nurturing people, because they're going to nurture people. They're caretakers. They're going to nurture people even if those people are not treating them well. Okay. Other reasons might be what? The Five of Pentacles. Yeah, the poverty card. Okay. So some people are staying in a situation because they think that they won't have enough money if they leave. And this could be very real. This could be real. But I do want to ask you to weigh things out. You have to weigh things out. At some point, you have to be able to give importance to yourself and your feelings. And if you already have children, what you are staying with is also what they're staying with, okay? So I don't know what your situation is, but your children are going through it along with you. So keep that in mind. And then the other thing is sometimes it just takes time. Oh, and I've got more to say about that too, because another aspect of the Hangman is sacrifice. Sometimes you're going to be sacrificing yourself. You're going to be sacrificing yourself for the sake of money. You'd be sacrificing yourself for the sake of children. And you could be sacrificing yourself because you made a commitment. I do understand all these things. I do understand that, you know, because I saw my own parents, they just struggled to get along. Their marriage was 26 years long. But when the children were all out of high school, my mom finally did leave. But it took her that long. She tried to leave earlier, of course. Of course she did, but she did really struggle with money. She struggled with money, but even then, I think she would have made it. She would have figured out how to make it, except that further pressure was put on because Dad would come back and then he would cry. And he would cry to Mom, and then the kids would see him crying. The kids, okay? And then the kids would cry too. They missed their dad. And so she would end up taking him back. And so this was a long time that she was sacrificing herself. But after the kids were, you know, most of them were out of high school. One was almost out of high school. Then she did finally leave. So yeah, I really understand that. And then too, at different times we may be able to stick it out through these things. Like we may be able to leave, but we have to be ready to. And it's like you've got two piles. You've got one that's full of all the good stuff, and you've got one that's full of the bad stuff. And when one pile gets bigger than the, you know, for sometimes the good stuff outweighs the bad stuff. And then sometimes it's 50-50. And then as time goes on, it might be to where the bad stuff outweighs the good stuff. And sometimes you really need to get to a point where you've had it. And that can take time, and maybe some of you aren't there yet. Okay? So another thing might be to look at how you can be where you are and still let go in some way. In some way, it's going to be in your mind. How you can liberate your mind, it's probably by changing your expectations. Unless you're being physically abused. If you're being physically abused and your kids are seeing you do that, if you're being physically abused, your commitment's already broken. Okay? If you're being physically abused, you are already putting yourself in hardship, even inside the marriage, even if you're just saying, oh, I don't think I have enough money to go through this on my own. I do want to remind you that lots of single moms do raise kids on their own. And yes, it's hard for them. But if you're in a relationship that's really hurting you and making, if it's like physically hurting you or making you physically ill, then you're already enduring hardship. I just want to say that, okay? All right? I don't know if any of this was helpful. I hope it is. If you're not being physically abused and you know, you're going to be like my mom and say, well, I've just got to wait till these kids are older, or, you know, and she did wait around for 26 years, then it may help you to figure out how to change your expectations of what that relationship is so that you can maybe hurt about it a little bit less. Start getting yourself fulfilled in other ways. I'm not saying to cheat or anything. That's really for somebody's conscience. That's really a question that somebody has to answer for themselves on the spiritual level. But there are other things you can pursue in your life that can be fulfilling for you. I know one of the things my mother did was she was a fantastic artist, and she launched into her art. She was a painter, and she was a seamstress, and she launched into her sewing, and she started her own business, and she was very successful. But it was a place for her to put her creative energy when her relationship wasn't a satisfactory place for that creative energy to go. Because a relationship is a creative endeavor. It is. You know, my mother was an expert gardener. She had gardens that were like an acre. So she did other things that fulfilled her, and she just quit the expectation that my dad was going to be the person to fulfill her. But that in itself is a means of letting go. Well, we have all kinds of drama happening out on the street. There, it's going to finally calm down. That in itself is a means of letting go, though. That in itself is a means of liberating yourself. I wanted to say that. And I also wanted to draw an Akashic Record Oracle card. We can even draw more than one because I know we've got more than one person here. And something's falling out. What is it? Oh, it's a pile. Okay. It's a pile. Let's draw Akashic Oracle card for our collective who is struggling with letting go, or who's hurting about their relationships. Thank you. And what do we have for them? We need good cards for them. Strategy and planning. Oh my goodness, this reminds me of my mother. I think I'm channeling my mother here. Maybe she is responding. These are glossy cards. I'm getting a little glare, but I want you to be able to see the picture. Okay. Strategy and planning says, your actions have taken you to a new phase in your spiritual evolution. Now is the time to plan and strategize for the highest possible outcome. All right, let's draw another one too. Let us draw another card of advice for our collective who are hurting about their relationships and struggling one way or another to let them go. And they need some good advice. Please give us some good advice. Release. It's a butterfly. It's a butterfly of transformation. It's a butterfly with a woman's face. Interesting. You're being asked to release any toxic people or situations from your life. You deserve to be free of all drama. And this is the first step to achieving that. Okay, I want to come back to the strategy and plan. I think this is a really good I think this is a great card. It may or may not resonate with the person who is feeling like they may not have enough money to support their family if they go out on their own. Or that they may be overwhelmed with responsibilities on their own. But this strategy and planning, it just reminds me too of my mom, who had to wait. You know, she had to wait until the kids were older, which means that he had less of a claim on her. You know, he couldn't come and emotionally activate the kids. But the other thing is, if you're planning to hang out in the relationship until such a time that you feel like it's easier for you to go, there's strategy and planning as to how you're going to survive in that too. And I would really say, invest in yourself. Invest in the things that make you happy. I don't know if that means getting education or pursuing a hobby or starting a business or whatever it is, you know, something. Okay, one more card of advice for our collective that is struggling to let go. Please. And thank you. Self-doubt. You're questioning, here's the picture, sorry. This one always reminds me of Little Red Riding Hood. This card was in my pick-a-pile reading for the full moon. So I just recently saw it. You're questioning yourself and unable to move forward. Don't let fear hold you back. You have the strength and power to see it through. Now is the time to break free from this limiting pattern. Yeah. Well, I just want to say, because, you know, if you're thinking, oh, I won't have the money, or I will feel overwhelmed if I try to be a single parent, just remember that lots of people are single parents. And it's not easy. I'm not going to sugarcoat it for you, but it's also not easy to be in a relationship that's hurting you every day. What's on the bottom of the deck? Healing. Your body, mind, and soul are in a period of deep healing right now. You're going through many transformations at once, and you're being asked to allow yourself to receive the healing you need with open arms and an open heart. Okay? I hope that this reading is helpful, and I always like to hear from you. Okay? So that's the letting go spread. All right. Thank you, everybody. I love you. Bye-bye.